bring the FA Cup to the south of the capital. You can see 22%, that's all they had. Manchester City, 6 shots on goal, 23 shots in total, but couldn't get past Henderson. And it is third time the charm then for Crystal Palace, who'd lost to Manchester United on their 2 previous finals, but not, though, to Manchester City, as they'll win this by 1-0. We've talked a lot about Crystal Palace, haven't we? Let's focus a little bit, shall we, Nadem, on Manchester City. I think those highlights showed it all. You have the ball, but you're doing nothing with it. Exactly what we've seen all season.
Yeah, slight over-exaggeration there, Dan. You could relax a little bit. I think you go back to that first half, and the penalty miss is a big moment in the game itself. I think it's very easy to forget that they had that opportunity. That is essentially the biggest chance of the game. And I think for the way that Palace played, once they had the lead, possession wasn't an issue anymore. And they knew with the hard runners that they had up front, they had Mateta sort of battling for flick-ons. They'd always have the chance to sort of go and running behind Munoz as well, who was fantastic. I think for City, I think the stats are they had 58 touches in the opposition's box, but what did they get from it? Why were they not shooting in key moments? When they had those opportunities, why weren't they clinical? Because I think the message in at half-time from City was to just figure out that quality in the final third, because they would have some opportunities, and as you saw from the highlights, there weren't a ton of great ones, but after Palace had scored, you basically saw them defending. They were throwing their bodies at everything, putting bodies in the right areas, being as good and as honest as you can expect from really good professionals. So from City, it's disappointing. Feels like that's basically been the season that they've had this year so far. But again, this is an FA Cup. There's no guarantee you're going to win it, and that's another loss for them. And yeah, they've got more to think about now with these next 2 games as well in the league.
Nathan, just tell me if I'm wrong. Jack Grealish and Matheus Nunes were on the bench, right? What does that tell you?
That's right.
The youngster comes on and misses the chance. Wembley Cup final, 100,000 or 90,000. You got Grealish on the bench. Go on.
Yeah. It's a strange one with Echeverria because he hasn't really been involved, like barely been in any squads this season. So when the sort of team came out and on the subs bench, you had Vitor Reyes, you had Kuzanov, and you had Echeverria. You're thinking, well, they've replaced Rico Lewis, who's just scored at Wembley in the semi-final. You know, there's James McAtee, who scored in the competition as well. And obviously, Kovacic had an issue. So for him to go and trust him in this moment, I think it's credit to the belief that the manager has in him. But, like, if I was Jack Grealish, I'd be thinking, well, why could I not be here for this big moment? He's played in bigger moments than, well, he's not played in bigger moments than this, but he's played in this equivalent moment before. He's played for England in knockouts. He's played for City in cup finals before. So for him to not be looked at in a key moment, I think as you walk away, you've got to be really disappointed. But again, there are so many players throughout this season who do have that sense of disappointment because they've either not had the opportunity or they've not taken it. And unfortunately for Jack, you could argue it kind of falls in between both of those.
He played in the Champions League final.
Yeah. That's the message, isn't it? That's your manager.
And people might be looking, going, Matheus Nunes, he's right back. I've been watching him playing right back. He's not a right back. He's an attacking midfielder. Right side. That's where they signed him from Wolves. And I get it, Jack Grealish hasn't. I get it. He's lost his form for whatever reason. Partying, injuries, attitude, just lost his form. I don't know. But when you're bringing a youngster on, when you're desperate to salvage something from your season, and I know they've got a couple of games coming up, and you leave Matheus Nunes, who is an attacking midfielder, scored from quite a sum of money from Wolves, and Jack Grealish, who's an England international who's played in Champions League finals and signed him for almost 100 million or whatever the hell it was, and you're bringing a youngster on who, at a big moment, you need to have that composure, that experience. It's another strange Guardiola decision.
There's only one reason as a coach you do that, and it's the unknown. He's maybe sat there going, they'll bring Grealish on, they'll bring him on, they all know, everybody knows him. Why don't we just chuck the kid on? Nobody knows what's going to happen.
He'll give us something different.
Something different. That is the only reason. The only reason.
Kieran, if you're coming up against Manchester City as a defender, because you've seen them play this style of football so much, is it easier because you know what's going to happen?
I don't think it's easier, but I think that the 2 areas that City have lacked this year for me has been them in transition, but then also the speed of their play.
Yeah.
Stevie mentioned earlier about going backwards, sideways to the other side. And for me, there's no problem with that, but it's the speed at which they do it. And I think that it has become a little bit predictable. And we talk about De Bruyne, don't we, about how, you know, maybe he's lost that little bit of yard. And I think that may be the case for a few other players in the team as well, which even just that split second that you move the ball a little bit slower, if you do that from one side to the other, it adds up, and it becomes a little bit easier for the defenders to shift and get in position. And you saw today, Crystal Palace, their positioning. I thought Eze and the other kid on the other side, their distances and their positioning was good, but I think City played into that. They allowed Crystal Palace to get into position too quickly, and I think that becomes a little bit easier made it a little bit easier for Crystal Palace.
The only way we saw a lot of Kevin De Bruyne today, some good stuff, that little pass at the end, a lot of poor stuff though. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I think we saw a lot of them was because it was easy to get on the ball. Mm. I think had they played a team that was sort of going at them, and you can go at City, I think the game would have passed him by. I think the only reason we did see him on it is because they had 80% possession or whatever it was. But I think anything that's not a team that's sitting in as deep as that, I think he's going to struggle.
When did we see anything through the middle of the park? We don't. The ball ends up in the wide areas all the time. We get that. But they can't change it because they can't go anybody through the middle of the park. There's nothing. Kevin De Bruyne, the one great ball he played in, he was away in the wide area. There's nothing. There's no like little interplay with the centre forward or even Marmoush in there. Somebody running through, playing little 1-2s. There's nothing coming through the middle of the park whatsoever. If they get nothing from the wide areas, they don't give you anything.
It's very difficult, by the way, when you've got 11 men camped behind the ball and you've got a back five and you've got 4 and then you've got Mateta. It is very difficult to break down. So I don't want to take anything away from...
It is, but you've got... So you know as City, you know exactly that's going to happen. And then when you see them sitting so deep, we were sitting watching it complaining that they were almost on the penalty spot half the time. You've got to have a strike at goal.
Yeah.
You've got to have a strike at goal. And it doesn't matter whether it's on target or not. After 2 or 3 strikes, they're going to have to step out. Somebody's going to have to step out. And when they step out, that's when I'm talking about getting some little bits of play, because if one steps, there's a little hole.
How many times when you watch City do you see them shooting from 20, 25 yards?
Never.
Nathan, it's interesting. We've been waxing lyrical over the last few days about Barcelona, who play with this freedom, this excitement, this entertainment. Has Pep Guardiola taken that all away from this Manchester City side in that they're overcoached now? That there's no freedom to think, that they've got to stick to his plan no matter what?
No, I don't think so at all, to be honest. I can see where that narrative could come on a day when they don't score. But listen, you look at the stats. On a different day, they probably should have scored.
They didn't score against Southampton either.
The opportunities that they had. Yeah, but that was a very good clean sheet, that one, Dan. That's what's different.
Yeah,
this one is an unfortunate one. yeah, of course. No, I don't think they're overcoached at all, because you see for the way that the wingers played, I think today, as Kieran was saying, it's tough to be able to to attack against a team that really protects the middle so well. You know, they've got those 3 centre-halves who are parked in the middle of the field with 2 holding midfielders right next to them who will go around everywhere. And as a consequence, for Mitchell, for Munoz, they can get out quicker to a winger than if they're playing against a team that was in a back 4. And I think for the sort of threat that Palace posed as well in transition, City couldn't really have people as fullbacks going to overlap because they're always worried about the space that will be left behind. Because with all respect to, say, Ruben Diaz and Vardiol, you wouldn't necessarily fancy them in a race with the likes of Sarr and Eze, for example. So they were cautious even whilst they were attacking. I agree with Stevie. People should have been having more shots, especially as that time was ticking down. Somebody let one go, someone let one go. Maybe there's a deflection. Maybe the keeper makes a save. Maybe you take something. But I don't think they're overcoached. I just think in this particular moment, the final sort of quality in that final third just wasn't there. And it's greatly disappointing because there were times when, say, Doku would go down the line. He's beating Munoz. What's the ball like into the box? No good. He comes inside. He's taking his time. He's going to have a shot. Well, it's no good. Times ball goes out wide on the right side. Ball into the box. It's no good. Like, if they want to be winning games of football like this, which we've seen them win historically, the quality has to be of the highest level because Palace were prepared to defend until the lights went out in this stadium. I think anyone that's played before has had games like that where you believe you will always be in the right spot and you need a bit of magic for something to change. And for City, they didn't have that, but I don't think it's just because of the manager. Because in theory, when you saw that starting lineup, we thought, well, where's the defensive midfielder for City? And are they really going to get away with having that many attackers in that sort of space? And in the end, as I say, it just didn't end up being their day, and they couldn't manage to score a goal.
You know, Nedum, the reason why I'm thinking about the overcoaching is I understand that, you know, teams, they trust the process. You know, you hear that Xabi Alonso talking about it at Leverkusen last year all the time. We trust the process, that's why we're doing this and that. But when you're playing in an FA Cup final and there's 15 minutes to go and you are looking as if you have absolutely no idea, no inspiration, no freedom, no nothing to try and produce something. That to me is overcoaching. There wasn't anybody on that field from 15 minutes in towards the end of the game that did anything other than they've been doing all season and all game long that hasn't worked. That to me is a sign of just of overcoaching and not having the freedom to think for yourself.
Yeah, Stevie, in fairness, I see where you're coming from, but I would counter by saying, well, it's going to be down to the players. Like I was speaking to one of the City squad that didn't make the team
But then if they're overcoached, then you've taken everything away. That's the point.
No,
that's the whole point.
But they're not overcoached.
Yeah, but surely they have to think for themselves.
No, but they're not. That's the point.
Why, that's
they're not
the point of overcoaching.
In that moment, they let themselves down.
They're so brain dead functionally that I've got to do this. I've got to do this.
No.
I've got no.
No.
Well, so why do you keep doing? Why do you keep doing it though?
I see what you're saying, Stevie, but in this moment itself, do you know yourself as a coach? You can tell them to do whatever you want them to do, but when they're out on the pitch, it's up to them to do it. You look at the moment, for example, where Henderson handballs it outside of the box. That comes from just a straight ball in behind. That isn't something that Guardiola would have said for the players to do, but it's something that they did, that they saw. And I think the biggest disappointment from my side, and it might be the same for Guardiola himself, is the players didn't have a feel for the desperation of the game itself, because he was trying to urge them forward. From where I was sitting, I could see him urging them, come on, come on, come on. But for some reason today, it's either they didn't have the belief themselves or they just didn't have the quality. And again, I don't think they're overcoached. The players themselves would not say that they're overcoached. But in this moment, somebody has to have the spark. But it didn't seem like in this last 15 minutes, nobody was prepared to step up. But that's not because they were held back. It's because in this moment, this is the way it goes within football sometimes.
I don't know if you saw it, Nathan, but what sparked the exchange between Dean Henderson and Guardiola on the pitch at the end? Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So at the start of the second half, Henderson was trying to waste time, which is fair enough when you are the underdog with the lead. And Guardiola, within 5-10 minutes of that second half, was clapping Henderson, saying, oh, well done, good time wasting. So he was on him for the whole second half about it. So I think that's probably where it comes from, because Henderson, you know, he's a confident guy, so he probably had some words for Guardiola, and Guardiola's Guardiola, so he probably had some words for Henderson as well. But essentially, if the shoe was on the other foot, both people be doing the exact same thing. So it's just a case of perspective. And as far as Palace go, I'd want my goalkeeper taken as long as humanly possible as well.
He has got a habit. We were just talking, you remember at the Brighton game, he was on the pitch. Van Hecke was having a pop back at him. There's been other times he does it with his own players. Just his character, I suppose. But the big question is, and we've all sort of had it, is where do they go? They've got 2 games left. They're not in the Champions League as we speak. And the bigger picture beyond that is they've given him this new contract. How does he revive this squad? They spent big in January. One of those players, Nico Gonzalez, was, I think, 60 million. Hasn't featured in a lot of games. What's going to happen there? How's Rodri when he comes back? And has he got the desire to go again and build this team into the juggernaut that it was, playing the type of football that it played? I think there's a massive, massive doubt hanging over him in that sense.
How much have they been found out a bit, City, in the sense that people know what to expect when they go up against them now, more than other teams?
I think we've got to give them a little bit of breathing room because of the loss of Rodri, Haaland at key moments in the season. I think it's going to come down to stamina, as Craig says. And I don't think he would have signed if he didn't think that he didn't have the energy to go again. So I don't want to doubt him. I'm not going to doubt him and say that he's not going to regroup and go again next season. But they got 2 big games to go left. They can't. They don't have time to sit around and cry about today or how the season's gone. They need to take care of business over this next week or so and make sure that they remain their status in the Champions League. So I think they got to get that sorted first, and then they can go again. I think they're going to make some interesting signings. I saw they're linked with Wirtz. I think if they get that done, that could really reignite the midfield that needs a bit of a fresh look. And yeah, I think it's too early to determine how they're going to be next season.
Congratulations. The Crystal Palace fans have waited over a century for this. You got gold all on your neck right now. repping East Mamba. Love those vibes. Just talk to me. How does it feel to know that now you're a part of Crystal Palace history?
No, it's amazing. You know, I think if you'd have told us this at the beginning of the season, we wouldn't have believed it. But, you know, it was just a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, a lot of long days at the training ground. But, again, you know, it feels amazing to be able to give back to a club that's, I would say, struggled when it comes to competitions. But, again, I mean, they support us the whole way. And we're a small part of a big group now.
Now, I asked you in the semifinals, because that back line, how you guys hold your composure, it's so hard, especially when City just keep going at you like a bull shark. Today, talk me through what you were telling yourselves, the constant conversations that you guys had.
We just tried to keep it one play at a time. You know, I think the first 15 minutes we didn't touch the ball. So, I mean, that's what we were just thinking. If we can just do our job and let the guys up front put 1 or 2 in, that's exactly what we're going to do. And, again, I think our first attack we scored. So, I mean, we're a really tight group, but, again, a shutout starts from the front. So, again, all 11 that played, or all 11 that started today was a part of the clean sheet.
And I said this also in the semifinals. Eze, he just does not do boring goals, but also Hendo there at the back. 2 crucial moments from both players. I mean, just talk to me about their influence on this team.
Yeah, I think we're going to call Hendo Allstate, safe hands, you know. No, it was amazing. You know, both those guys, like you said, Ebbs is a baller. He doesn't do anything that normal people should be doing on the pitch. So he shows up when it's time, shows up really big for us. So same with Hendo. You know, Hendo made maybe 5 saves. And, again, people like to say that we have a clean sheet, but a lot of it was because of him.
Yeah, he's definitely a special player. And for you personally, just what does this achievement mean? Because you, apart from Tim Howard, are the only other American, and now Matt Turner as well, to win an FA Cup, the oldest cup competition in the world.
No, it means a lot. I mean, I think growing up, I never watched the FA Cup game. I'm from Alabama, so we definitely didn't have that on TV. So being able to not just do it for Americans, but also do it for the kids back home who have a dream of playing over here, I think it means the world to me.
European football now secured for next season. That's so huge. How important was that? How much was it playing on your mind, knowing that, of course, some of the big names like Eberiche and whatnot, you know, other clubs are looking. Let me just put it that way. How important was it to secure European football, to kind of keep those big names there?
I mean, to be fair, we just try to keep it one game at a time. We're trying to look too forward into the future. But I think once the game was done, I think we all realized that, like, oh, we actually qualified for Europe. So, no, I think it'll be really big, not just for the club, but for the players involved. And I'm really looking forward to next season.
And was there any planning going on before this? Because going up against that City front line too, when you have the likes of Haaland, we saw how close he got today until Hendo told him no. What were the talks, I suppose, going into this on how you can neutralize them?
Yeah, I mean, our big plan, of course, was we wanted to keep a shutout, but we also understood that a team like City is going to have chances. You know, they're one of the best teams in the world. And so whatever we can do to kind of neutralize, like you said, is what we're going to try to do. And it wasn't always pretty, but we got the job done in the end.
Well, finally now, going into the next US men's national team camp, I'm sure you'll go with your chest held very high in terms of what this means to you personally, as you just told me, but for ambitions now, for national team and, of course, for club.
Yeah, again, let's win a trophy this season, this summer with the national team. And again, next season we have some big competitions to play in, so hopefully we can continue this streak of trophy a season. And yeah, again, I think it's a really ambitious team. I think the gaffer came in and showed us from day one that he's very ambitious, and showed it today again with the win. So it was amazing.
Well, we'll let you enjoy some more pizza. I know you need it. You can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
This is not the last game of the domestic season in England. There is still, for City, 2 rounds of matches to go, 2 rounds in which they have to get results if they're going to return to the Champions League next season. They have Bournemouth on Tuesday at the Etihad, and then it's back to London, Craven Cottage, Fulham on May the 25th.
Well, I just wouldn't put I mean, I think they'll make it, but I wouldn't put the house on it.
Nope.
Deflated, tired,
Frustrated.
frustrated would be another thing.
At least they're at home.
They're at home in one of them.
The first one.
They're playing
You
two.
think that?
I think that's key. I think that's well,
But Bournemouth
a lucky
won't go.
thing.
But Bournemouth won't go to the Etihad and park the bus.
No.
They'll go and try and play.
Of course.
And so it'll be an open game, which might help them, and it might not.
Aye.
And then Fulham at the Cottage. So there is no guarantee at the moment, really. The way if this was City of 2 years ago and they had a little blip and somehow they were in this position, you'd have gone, yeah, they'll just pick it up and they'll go. But they've fallen down such a steep cliff this year. Well, you mentioned Rodri. Well, of course, he was the best holding midfielder in the world until his injury. There's not much doubt about that. But that one player didn't make them fall off that cliff as far as that. It might have thrown a few awkward results up, but it didn't make them go on that run It was all the other problems: the lack of legs, the poor defence, the signings not in form. Doku, Savinho, certainly Savinho hasn't worked out. I mean, we watched a lot of him at Girona. He was brilliant.
Yep.
And in the Premier League and in England, he looks lightweight, absolutely lightweight. So a lot of things for City this season have just not worked.
There's a lack of trust as well in a team when that happens. You know, when you're everything's going well, you're winning games at that level, you don't think twice because you know that if you make a run, somebody's going to cover the hole. And if it's not one, it's going to be another. And everybody's doing that all around the field. And so you're just playing, knowing where people are going to be. The situation City are in now is everybody's looking around wondering if there's going to be somebody there.
Yeah.
And that's at this level, that is huge, absolutely huge.
How does today's result, Nedum's back with us by the way, affect City going into Tuesday's tie?
I think it will matter in some ways because what the manager's going to say to those players after the game will basically dictate the feel around the club. You know, they'll have to train tomorrow. What's he going to be like? What's he going to say to them? Are the players going to need to be picked up? Or they're the type that can sort of like self-motivate as well? Because these next two games are essentially must-wins at this point. You know, as you've shown on the sort of diagram there, or the screen just there, they're in 6th. Man City are in 6th. We're talking about top 5. All of a sudden, that result against Southampton feels really, really bad now. You thought perhaps it won't age well. It's aged terribly. So they need to get over this disappointment. They need to be able to have this full house. And it's going to be an emotional game as well because that's De Bruyne's last at the Etihad. So he'll want to do well. The fans will want to come and sing for him. But if it was to end with disappointment and you go into that last game against Fulham, hoping that other results go your way, that is a catastrophic end to what's been a very, very strange season by City's standards. So yes, there's disappointment.
Will he play him, Nedum?
Sorry, go on.
Will he play him at the Etihad? Or will he play the sentimental card? Or
Should he play him?
Well, you know what I mean?
Aye.
I think he will. I think he will play him. The sentimental card is there, but the fact is, like, if you don't play him, like, who's guaranteed to be in the side that's going to do better at the moment? Because you can look at, say, someone like Phil Foden, for example, who was great last season in the 10. You know, he's had so many issues this year and he's not been anywhere near his best. So you think, well, who's going to play the 10 then? Well, for Guardiola, the man is still Kevin De Bruyne as it stands. We'll see what his recovery's like, I imagine. We'll see what the mentality's like. But he'll want to go out well. De Bruyne, the club means a lot to him. This sort of finish to the season will mean a lot to him. He's very disappointed after that result just then. And they want to go out in a positive manner so they can have belief going into that next game against Fulham and finish the season with loads of disappointments, but still know that before they head off to the Club World Cup, they'll know they'll have Champions League football next year. And it seems like such a basic goal, but tell me what else they can fight for right now.
I mean, listen, I know De Bruyne wants to go out in some sort of, it's not high now really, but, you know, win against Bournemouth at home, an ovation, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? Manager wants to win the last 2 games.
Yeah, how sentimental.
And if he thinks, and I'm not, but he thinks he's maybe too tired after that, or he's not played well enough, or it's going to be a different game, he might have a decision to make, and it might not be a decision that De Bruyne likes. Who knows? But that's kind of where we are with Kevin De Bruyne at the moment, isn't it? Discussing whether he'll play or not in the second last game of the season.
Just City overall, Nedum. It's a big summer, of course, for Pep Guardiola and this side in general. And you look at, well, who can they bring in to boost this team? The concern that I'd have if I was a City fan is that the players that you've had have all been bang average this season, have all played a lot worse than they did last year. And the players that you brought in have been very 5 and 6 out of 10.
Yeah, they have been. I think that's a fair assessment as such. But I think for some of those players, they'll be hoping for the next season to just have more health and better fitness. So, for example, Nathan Ake spent a long time on the sidelines. You've seen the same for John Stones. I think the same for like Akanji. Even Ruben Diaz for the first 2/3 of the season spent a lot of time on the sidelines. And then you look again at the number 6, who was a Ballon d'Or in Rodri. He was out for the whole year. Haaland even this year has had some time out as well. I think it was probably 2-3 months. There's so many guys who want to be able to find good form. And I think they will believe in themselves because they know they have the quality. And for those new signings to come in, respectfully, for the last few years, this has probably been the hardest time to come in at City because the flow isn't there. Teams approach City in a different manner. I think at times they were playing people at the back who we wouldn't never expect to see at the back. Would you expect to see a Mateus Nunes or a Nico O'Reilly playing in fullbacks when they're attacking midfielders? Would you have seen a Jemai Simpson-Poussey, an under-18, who basically was thrust in there because no one else was available? Absolutely not. And that run that they went on, you could see it affected the confidence. The feel wasn't there. Even in the stadium, people had anxiety. And I think for them, it's about restoring belief in themselves individually, as a group, and the fan base itself. And once those players do come back in, it might not potentially end up being as good as we've seen in years gone by, but let's be realistic. It has to be better than it has been this year because so many players, as you've said, have underperformed. And for them, as long as they finish in the top 5 or whatever, they can go away to the Club World Cup thinking, well, this is a positive. Well, what can we do now in this tournament, which unfortunately for some is going to take over a lot of their summer.
Impressive stuff. And take a look at the most points win in the Bundesliga since March 22 for Dortmund. They were 10 points back in the Champions League prior to the break. Let's get some more reaction, shall we, to Dortmund. Almost doing the impossible, it seemed, didn't it, at Christmas, but now in the Champions League with Archie.
Felix, congratulations on your goal, congratulations on the win, but most of all, Borussia Dortmund are in the Champions League again. How does that make you feel?
It's an amazing feeling. I think with the journey that we made this season, it wasn't exactly how we wanted it, but at the end to come from 12th and then fight our way back and make it on the last day is definitely a very special moment.
Take us on that journey a little bit. How did it feel when you were 12th?
Yeah, you're just kind of like in shock. You're like, how has this happened? But then you just got to deal with the situation, got to try and take it game by game, and that's what we did. That's what we did, and at the end, we saw how the momentum came, we saw how we started playing better football, and then when the chances are going in, you have confidence, it's really good.
What has Niko Kovac done in this club to bring about this kind of change?
Yeah, of course, Niko had a big impact the last few months. Of course, obviously, he's changed the system, and I think it were like small details, you know. He's like a little bit old school, I would say, and at the end it helped us, you know. At the end it helped us, and that's why we have to say thank you to Niko, and he had a very big impact.
So we all see how much the fans want you to do well. How do you avoid putting them through the emotional roller coaster that you all three have been on this season, next season? How do you make it a bit calmer?
To be honest, I think we just need to do how we did at the end of this season, take it game by game, not think too far, and just apply the things that we've learned, apply the things that we're learning on this journey. And I think we have a really good chance, we have a really good team, so yeah, looking forward to it.
To be honest, if you take the last 8 or 7 games, we are, I think, top of the table. So we have to keep going on this way. And what is also good, like okay, we didn't have our best season, but we finished 4th. So for the future, I think it's something we can look forward. You know.
I'm being told to wrap it up, but the final question has to go to the captain. How do you celebrate tonight?
I think we will have a dinner together with the families, with the staff, and just enjoy the night. And now tomorrow we fly all, I think, to vacation, and we are very happy about that.
Is that a group vacation?
No,
it will be.
No,
it will be good.
I don't want to see him again.
Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. We have just done a marathon host FA Cup final segment, I suppose. And lots of questions about that final. Craig, has Pep's game plan become outdated?
What's the game plan?
Well, the game plan is to pass people to boredom until they fall asleep.
I think it's you watch teams like Barcelona play passing game, but they play it a lot quicker.
Yes.
Which is what City used to do. I don't think his game plan necessarily is outdated, but I think the players within that plan are outdated. Without being rude to them, they're just coming towards the end of their careers. So your Gundogan's not making those busting runs anymore. Kevin De Bruyne's not as influential. Rodri's out. You know, Jack Grealish is out of form. I mean, the list is just endless. And that's part of the problem. So it's all about recruitment in the summer, really.
Stevie, in hindsight, would it have been the right move for Pep to walk away as Jurgen Klopp did?
Well, we were talking on the show about does he have the desire to go again? And if he signed a new contract and he was unsure at that time, I think he signed the contract just to take some of the noise away.
Right.
So,
but
if that's the case, if the case is that he doesn't really have the desire, but he just couldn't help himself, then hindsight, absolutely, I'll bet he's thinking, why didn't I just go?
But walk away when? At the end of last year?
At the end of last year, I
But at the end of
suppose,
last year, they were champions.
Yes, go out on a high.
You know, Klopp walked away because he said he didn't have the energy for it anymore, and he was trying to chase City down. I wonder if he would have walked away had he had a crystal ball and known what was going to happen to City, thinking he could have taken Liverpool potentially to another second title. Now, that's not to say they would have done, because what Slot did in the first 6 months of the season was quite incredible. I mean, Liverpool's form. So there's no guarantees. But I bet you bottom dollar, Klopp's sitting there somewhere going, why couldn't we, for 2 or 3 years at least, when we were on our game, on our A game, why couldn't we had a City side like this?
Sure.
Because he had them at their best.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was very difficult to overcome, which they did once.
Who had the worst season, Kieran? Real Madrid or Manchester City?
Well, it's not over yet.
Which means it's not over.
Well, if City don't make the Champions League,
oh, it's not part of the conversation, surely.
Well, of course.
City were favourites to win the Premier League. They were favourites to win the Champions League.
No,
they've fallen short so far.
No, I think
Yes.
if they make the Champions League,
You've gone mad.
Considering where. Where they've been.
Real Madrid have made the Champions League, obviously.
Yes.
So
But
what's the
if
difference?
City make the Champions League, I'll probably still say City.
Oh, fair play. We were all going down that road.
Kind of knew that was coming.
Real Madrid have been.
Yeah, well, I think Madrid beat City as well at some stage. Does Palace winning the FA Cup bring back more importance to the FA Cup competition, Stevie? Well, surely,
No.
no, but surely, like you were saying, like those mid-table teams now, there can be no excuse for not fielding your proper teams. Because look at the joy that Crystal Palace fans have had today.
But what you're talking about is what we've been talking about for how many years?
But now Crystal Palace are the poster child of that.
Do you think, outside of Crystal Palace, that's what people will be thinking about when the season kicks off next year?
I wouldn't see why not. If I'm a Fulham supporter and my team are in the quarter-finals, I would say.
So when the third round comes round next year,
Not the third round. I'm just
well,
saying.
that's when the Fulhams of this world start the FA Cup, the third round.
Yes.
Do you think before the third round starts, before the game, they're going to go, well, Palace won it last year, so maybe we.
Why not?
Well, because they won. They won.
Oh,
You know, I don't know what the payout is in the Premier League per position, but it's a few million. I don't know if it's 10 million or 20 million if you finish 14th, 15th, it goes up, obviously. And you kind of get the feeling there's owners and chief executives prodding away at the manager going, listen, I wouldn't mind finishing, 13th rather than 15th, an extra 35 million or whatever it is. That's kind of, rather than saying, what the manager going, I don't care, I just want to, we want to be at the cup final, I'm going to play my strongest team. I kind of feel behind the scenes half the time that's what it is. Maybe it's not, maybe just managers make those changes, but
do you know the
I think the money's been a big
worst
part.
thing would be being one of the players at a team just below your Liverpools and your Cities and all these teams.
Okay.
And the FA Cup is probably your only chance for a bit of glory in your whole career. And then you turn up and you see the team sheet and the half of the boys are missing. That must be soul destroying.
Kieran, is Eze more deserving of an England call-up than Foden?
Well, they're both in the fold, aren't they?
No, they shouldn't be.
Come on, that's an easy answer.
Phil Foden's done nothing this season.
Have you watched Foden this year? I mean,
we're quick to forget. It's incredible.
No, but he's been off. He's been out of form.
It's unbelievable.
He has been out of form.
I can't drive this narrative.
Wait, hold on. Are you playing a game now?
Yeah.
Are you picking Eze or are you picking
I'm going to
Foden?
pick Eze.
Right.
I'm going to pick Eze.
Right.
I mean, of course, he's just pretty much single-handedly taken his team to an FA Cup final and to an FA Cup glory, and Foden has been missing this season. But we can't hide from the fact that Foden is a treble winner.
Yeah, but he's not. He's out of form. The question is, who's more deserving of an England call-up?
Currently, Eze is more deserving.
Final question: why are City not allowed to have a season like the season they just had? They have. Right. Let me rephrase. Why are City not allowed to have a season like the season they just had? They had one of the most dominant spells in the history of the game, yet everyone's acting like they're meant to dominate forever.
I agree.
No.
Sorry again?
I agree.
What do you mean you agree?
I agree.
Nobody sat here. What? Nobody sat here ever, in my knowledge, this season on our show and gone, "Oh, this is a disgrace. Pep Guardiola should be sacked. He's rubbish." I think what we've done is evaluate. And we've admired how they have been the dominant force in English football, and they've won the Champions League. Probably should have won it more. So we've admired all the greatness they've had, but I think we're absolutely right to question why the fall off has been as bad.
Look,
as
they're
it
allowed a
was.
blip, but this hasn't been a blip.
Yeah.
If they make the Champions League,
Oh my goodness!
if they make the Champions League, you can put this down. I think this will get brushed under the carpet as a blip. They've conceded 4 goals since the beginning of April. They had a horrendous blip.
Kieran, they couldn't beat Southampton. They couldn't beat Southampton. They're battling.
They've conceded 4 goals. Now, bar through.
They're currently, as we speak, they're in 6th place. As we speak.
It doesn't matter how many goals they've conceded.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think if they make the Champions League, I don't think it's as bad of a season as everyone's saying.
You're on the wind-up. You are absolutely on the wind-up.
They got battered by an absolutely terrible Real Madrid side. They got knocked out the Carabao Cup. I can't even remember.
Spurs, all smiles.
Spurs, who, by the way, are all over the shop. They've somehow managed to get to the cup final. A second year in a row, they've played poorly and they've lost. They went on a period where I think they lost 8 straight games or whatever. And as we speak now, they're in 6th place. This is a side that was favourites, probably to, I don't know what the bookies say, favourites to win the Champions League and the Premier League at the start of the season.
Yeah.
That constitutes...
They lost 9 games in 12.
I can probably sit here and tell you that we will never see another team like Manchester City.
I don't know what does that mean?
In our lifetime.
What does that mean?
Of how dominant they are, like it says
in the
here.
Premier League?
4 Premier Leagues in a row, a treble.
Right.
All in the same spell, within the span of
Which is
5
exactly
years.
why you can't forgive them for this season, because of the standards which they've set over previous campaigns.
That happens. It's a hangover. I'm not surprised that they're having a season.
That's not
like
a hangover. That's
to operate at that level.
Yeah.
To operate at that
Real
level.
Madrid and Barcelona have hangovers, but they don't finish 6th in the table.
Yeah, but the standard is for me. The standard is different.
But it
La
should be
Liga
different,
to the Premier
surely, as
League.
Manchester. Don't start.
It is for me.
Well,
for me, you can't compare the Premier League to La Liga. To do what they've done in the Premier League and in Europe,
Premier League.
They were due a season like this. That's all I'm saying.
Well, then Arsenal should be winning it every year, shouldn't they? That is it. That brings us to the end. We say goodbye to Kieran for the year. He'll be back for the 3rd round of the FA Cup.
He'll be back for the renaissance of Phil Foden. I believe.
It's tomorrow. Newcastle are playing Arsenal.
Arsenal. Top 5. Woo.